So, all right. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Randall Barker, and this is my daughter, Emma.
Hi, I'm Emma Barker, his daughter.
And so, thank you for joining us live. We're here to talk about, I guess, diabetes, of
Yeah,
course, but how I think the topic of the discussion is how diabetes hits different. And the thing, we'll get into that, but Emma and I are both, well, first of all, Emma's my daughter, and we both have type 1 diabetes. And so, first, me about myself. My name's Randall Barker, and I live in Texas. I have been a type 1 diabetic for 30, 31 years now. And this is my daughter, Emma Barker.
Hi. Okay, so I'm Emma. I have type 1 diabetes as well, along with my dad. I was diagnosed when I was about like 10 years old, and now I'm 19, about to turn 20 in a few days. So, kind of had it for a moment, but not as long as he's had it. um, yeah.
And stuff. So, I guess our first thing was like, what was our diagnosis like, and what was going through our mind when we were diagnosed? Well, like she said, she was diagnosed at 10. I was also diagnosed at age 10, and way back then, no, in the 90s, not much was known, really spread around about diabetes, I guess. People generally, the general consensus was that people thought you would get it from eating too much sugar. And it was, children were not really known to have it. There was more, people knew more about type 2 diabetes and versus type 1. So it was a whole learning experience for us, for me and my mother at that time.
And then, so when I was diagnosed, we were kind of a little bit more advanced in technology and the knowledge of type 1 diabetes. But I'm extremely grateful that I had my dad, because like my mom and like everyone else in my family, we had like honestly not a lot of knowledge about type 1 diabetes and what it was. So kind of having my dad to fall back on and like help me through it, like is awesome because I know a lot of other people who kind of had to do it like by themselves, like kind of had to learn the ropes and everything. Sorry. But I had my dad, so I was able to like turn to him and be like, "Hey, Dad, like my blood sugar's 300. What is going on?" And he's over here like, "Calm down. Like this is what we're gonna do." So it was pretty nice to have like for me to fall back on him like during those when I was newly diagnosed years.
Good. And so our next one, kind of diving into that, is, you know, what was it like finding out my daughter was diagnosed? And one of the first things I think that came to my mind was that I knew what she was going through. I knew that there was going to be that she was going to be scared and sad and all of these different emotions, and I knew that I could relate to her on those. I could share with her my feelings and how I overcome my how I overcome those first few weeks of learning everything, kind of the big crash course of learning about diabetes. And I know that many parents out there, that when their children are diagnosed, or even um, any parents, that their perspective, a lot of them are scared, and because they're getting thrown a lot of information as well. And for me, my diagnosis and being already diagnosed, it helped. It really took a lot of the stress off because I knew this was something that we could overcome. And so, yeah, for me, that was kind of my thoughts on when Emma was diagnosed.
Yeah. I guess another thing we're going to dive into is kind of like what is our management routine like now versus back then. I
Okay.
think kind of back then, I mean, I had no idea what I was doing, honestly. Like, I was very lucky though. I know when you're first like newly diagnosed, you have to be on the insulin shots for a little bit. Luckily, I was able to get on the insulin pump like what, about like 4 or 5 months after my diagnosis.
It was very soon.
It was really soon, which typically it's weird because you have to wait about a year before you could go on the insulin pump. Like you have to take the classes, talk to your doctor, like do all this other stuff. But I was like, hey, I have my dad. And they were like, yeah, you do have your dad. Let's get you started on the insulin pump like right now. And then a few months later, I had my insulin pump. So I think that was like a huge lifesaver for me, having that. But I guess another thing that back then I had to prick my finger, I think like a million times a day, like 8 or 10 times a day, versus like now we use the Dexcom G6 sensor. So I can't remember the last time I pricked my finger, honestly. It's normally if my Dexcom's acting kind of funky, I will. But I mean, I barely prick my finger now, which is like amazing because like I would always have little scars on the inside of my fingers and stuff. And everyone's like, what is that? I'm like, oh, diabetes life, that's what it is. So I think now versus now, I think it's like more lenient than it was back then. You know, I feel like I have more control over everything. Like the advancement in technology diabetes wise is like crazy, you know, because like I think back then they were talking about doing the loop system with T-Slim and like Medtronic and all of them. So like seeing what they were talking about and then like looking at it now when they actually did it is kind of like mind blowing in my opinion, you know, because it's like, oh, this is just all talk. Like, it's going to take a few years, which it did take a few years. But like now it's, I mean, me and my dad used T-Slim and Dexcom G6, the little loop thing, and it's helped a lot. It's amazing.
And like she says, the routine has definitely changed a lot. You know, when I was diagnosed in the 90s, the blood glucose meters that we used, you know, it took 3 to 4 minutes to get a blood glucose reading. So, you know, now the advancement of technology is, you know, we both wear CGMs where we rarely have to do a blood glucose finger stick and check our blood sugar. But as far, you know, the routine, I guess you could say in comparing is a little bit the same. We, of course, always check our blood sugar levels prior to a meal. And just whenever we think something's off, our CGM helps us monitor those things. We still dose as far as with insulin pump when we need to prior to meals or when blood sugar levels are elevated or anything like that. So in that sense, the routine's the same, but in sense of technology wise, there have been substantial advancements that have, I think, helped me and Emma. You know, she talks about how she started the insulin pump so early. Well, you know, she was in the hospital being diagnosed, and she was asking her doctor, hey, when do I get my insulin pump like my dad? The doctor was like, oh, let's pump the brakes first. We need to learn the basics first, and then we'll get you started on the insulin pump. And so she still got it pretty quickly. You know, she was a quick learner, and I think some of that might have had to do with seeing dad.
My dad there, yeah.
But sure. Yeah, even the doctor was like, oh, you've got to walk before you run, and she definitely was a very quick walker though, and everything. Let's see. Moving on to our next thing is, and we kind of just spoke about that, is what devices and support tools do we have then versus now? And I guess I can talk about that. It's like some of the technology, you know, when glucose meters that took 4 and 5 minutes to do a blood glucose reading, those I think exist now. Yeah. Whereas we have instantaneous readings through CGMs and meters that give you a blood sugar reading in seconds now. Some of the stuff has stayed the same that we've used. I think we both use, in fact, Emma was using some not long ago, ketone strips that we check our ketone levels when we may feel ill or off or something like that. That is something that has kind of stood the test of time that we use. Of course, the glucose meters, advancement, insulin pumps. Oh, geez, those are.
Yeah. What was it like back then? They were like huge, and then now they're like this big.
Yeah, and
Just so tiny.
just the insulin pump itself, because back when I started, you were taking injections, multiple injections a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still the technology today, is people, they're not everyone, not an insulin pump's not for everybody. There are individuals that would rather do the take the injection through a syringe, take insulin through a syringe. So that is something that has both stayed the same, but has evolved as well as the way of our getting medication and everything. Um, let's see, what else? Support tools. Can you think of any support tools that have changed just in the short time span that you have?
Honestly, I would say probably like the insulin pumps, like how they're doing the loop. I think that's my favorite thing in the world.
That was an experimental thing
sure.
when you were early diagnosed 10 years ago. That was experimental. There was a group
Trials
of
going on.
medical hackers that were working on those, and now that is almost a standard of care. So that has definitely changed. Let's see. Was there a moment that you experienced that made you realize diabetes was different than before? I could do that one, but I'll let you.
I would probably say your eye problems, sir.
Well, she's going to talk about the eye problems, or she brought up the eye problems, and that, for me, that was,
because that also changed, my point of view as well.
Really? Okay.
I mean, just a little.
Okay, so I guess first, let's get what we're talking
and
about.
Then I'll say my part.
One of the things of diabetes is that there unfortunately are complications. And so, diving back to what I said earlier, I've been a type 1 diabetic for over 30 years. And it wasn't until it actually popped up 5 years ago that one of the complications, diabetic retinopathy, reared its ugly head around me. I had to have eye surgery. It was 5 years ago this month, and for a dot hemorrhage that ruptured, and that was a result of diabetic retinopathy, and could have been years of up and down blood glucose values and everything. And thankfully, surgery corrected that. I have had to go in and have 2 other surgeries over the years since then. So I've had a total of 3 for each separate event of episodes of diabetic retinopathy. And but yeah, so for me, that was really the eye-opening thing. It was the complications have finally caught up with you, and it was really eye-opening to say that I needed to really get a handle on and be, try to start taking better control and hopefully make up for some years of just leaving diabetes to the wayside. What about for you? What'd you
I think for me, seeing from that point of view, because I've only read about this stuff, I haven't really experienced myself, but I have experienced it through a family member. So hearing that my dad kind of was diagnosed with that, and then seeing that, diabetes was also kind of one of the big causing factors of it. It was first made me think, I was like, okay, I really need to get into control of my blood sugars then, because they've been kind of wacky too. But second of all, kind of just I felt kind of scared for him, but luckily everything in the end turned out okay. But I think just, thinking about it, it's makes me think of how I'm taking care of my diabetes, because there are some days I slack a little. There are some days where I'm like, you know what, I don't even want to do diabetes today. But I mean, you have to do diabetes. It's a 24/7, 365 type deal. So, just kind of witnessing that through my dad and going to the appointments with him and taking him to surgery and seeing him after that. I mean, it was scary, but I'm thankful you're okay.
Well, thank you. And that's nice. It's good. It's something good came from the bad. If it helps her kind of open up her perspective of things and to go in there and take better care of herself, along with me too, well then that's great. And then it's something good came of something bad. And so I'm happy for that. Let's see. What is our next one? Is that what is something we wish we would have known at our time of diagnosis that we know now? Um, I'll let you
I
tackle
think
that.
for me, just how much of like, I mean, because when I was diagnosed, I was young, so I was like, okay, I got this, like, it's gonna be okay. But like once, like after a few weeks, it all sets in, and it's just like, wow, I have to live with this for like basically the rest of my life, kind of deal. Like, hopefully they'll come out with a cure soon, but I mean, it's still in the works. So I think what advice I would give, like for today, for people newly diagnosed, that I mean, it's going to be okay. I think mentally it took like a big toll on me personally because, I felt alone, but I also still had my dad to talk to and like everything like that. But then I started kind of like opening my horizon and I started, because I wanted to keep my diabetes to myself. I didn't want to like tell everyone I had this disease. Like a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, you have diabetes. You like ate too much sugar or like you just didn't care about yourself, like stuff like that. So I wasn't really prepared to share it with the world. But I think like once I realized, it's going to be okay. I mean, I got this, like, this is a part of me now. I think it's kind of when I started opening up and I started like, I've met so many people through all these like diabetes organizations. I have so many friends that I still talk to like daily, I think just everything's going to be okay, like just open, like it's okay to open up about it, but it's also like okay to keep it to yourself too, so like whenever you're ready to take that step and just be like, share your experiences, everything, I think it was a good thing for me. Like it helped a lot mentally and it helped a lot, like makes me want to like take better control of my diabetes and be like better diabetic and stuff like that. So I think that would be my
Yeah,
advice.
and I think you opened up a good point. Is that there that is an aspect that I wish there were the that I wished I would have known, that I've grown over the years and have seen and stuff, is that there is a mental aspect to the diabetes, and it's not always great thoughts and things, and that there is support out there. It's okay to reach out to your medical provider, to reach out to get help, to talk through and have a discussion about, hey, I'm feeling down about this, or I really just struggle sometimes with some of the mental aspects of diabetes. And what I wish to probably would have known sooner is that, you know though that support is out there, you have to just reach out for it. It's not going to just come to you. But I think her and I had a great experience, whereas that I can maybe recognize when she's going through those little periods of feeling down, and we can definitely reach out. And if we need to expand on something by going with her doctor and kind of opening up that avenue of mental health, um, help help with her mental health, then we go that avenue. And I think we're both open to that
Yeah.
and stuff. And I think that would be kind of dive into our next one, is what advice do would I want to share with people who are newly diagnosed, and that this is not diabetes is not it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and there are going to be your highs, your lows of both blood sugar, but emotions, just everything. And it's, you know there's help out there, there's support, um there's a community, there's a whole, I think, diabetes online community, um that is out there. They are there to kind of help support each other, and all it takes is just opening up, reaching out, and getting that support. Do you have any advice that you
I
would
think I'll
have?
probably, ring in on that.
And yeah, good elaborating. Yeah, so, and like Emma mentioned, is that she has friends. We both attended a summer camp that was devoted strictly to diabetics, children with diabetes, from I think it's
I think
age 5 to 18,
all the way to 18. Yeah.
and this camp is Camp Sweeney. Give them a shout out, in Gainesville, Texas. It is a life-changing experience that Emma and I got to both experience. And we both have friends that we still talk to this day, that we met at that camp. Now, mine are much older And Emma would just recently complete, we're aged out of the camp. And
Yeah.
so, but we both have friends, and we have those friends that we reach out to in our times of need and stuff. And so that kind of goes back to what I was saying for the advice is that, there are the highs and lows, and reach out for those times when you need help.
Mhm.
So I'll let you lead with the next one.
So for our last one, in your words, how do you think diabetes is different today? Let me think about this one. Do you want to go?
Okay, I'll go. Diabetes. Well, from what I have learned prior to when I had diabetes, but when I was fairly new, is just the technology itself has changed. And I think that leads to a better advancement of treatments that we have. And I still am optimistic that one of these days we will have a cure. But a big caveat to that is, what is a cure to me? What is a cure to you? What a cure to each person might be different. So for me, and I think Emma, the closed loop pump system is life changing, and is almost as close to being to having our body take care of itself as a natural non-diabetic would be, as we can get right now. Now, there are continual advancements. There's smart insulin. There's insulin transfusions that are being in research and done. So it's a question of, what is a cure to you, and what are you happy with? And I think that those advancements are going to continue to get better. And so my advice, or my words of how is it different, is that things always seem to be getting better. On the flip side of that, I think there are things that need to be continually worked on. And some of those might be access to affordable insulin, access to supplies. Emma and I are both very privileged in that we have insulin pumps, yet there are millions out there that don't have that access. And luckily, there are programs that can assist with people, but yet when we come in regards to insulin affordability, there are people that ration insulin that should not happen. And that is something where you hope that people reach out before they ration their insulin. Sure. And so that is kind of a talking point that we try to bring up as well, when we do our talks and talk to people.
The affordability of it.
Exactly. And I think that now that is becoming more eye-opening to people, and they're realizing that there are programs out there that can help there. And that lawmakers, it's finally becoming, on their radar, that they're understanding the exorbitant cost of insulin, as well as other medications that are related to diabetes care. And, there's whispers and little bits and pieces of legislation being brought up that can hopefully we can all get together and get that legislation passed that can help with things as affordable insulin and supplies for diabetics. Because, what good are these great advancements in technology if people cannot afford them? And so, for anyone that might be questioning, I have trouble paying for my supplies, I have trouble paying for insulin and things like that, just look out there. There are groups, the ADA and the JDRF, and there are so many other organizations out there that can have resources on there that people can go online and they can look for places where to search to get assistance. The manufacturers do have assistance programs that kind of do help alleviate some of that for some people. So, that kind of went off on a different thing, but I think diabetes is much differently, but I think things and all are getting better every day.
Oh, for sure.
And yeah, so I think that was, our talk. We kind of went. Is there anything you would like to add?
I think we both covered it pretty well.
Okay. All right. Well, we thank you for your time, and know that this is just the beginning of Diabetes Awareness Month.
For
Every
sure.
November is starts the beginning of National Diabetes Awareness Month.
So wear your blue. Just kidding.
Yes, blue represents diabetes, so we always like to say wear blue.
Mhm.
Especially, there's a caveat of always wear blue on Fridays,
Yeah.
and so I know. Thank you, to the American Diabetes Association for allowing
Yes.
us to get up here and
I
share our
know. We're
story.
very grateful for it.
Keep an eye on them on all the socials throughout this month, and even beyond this month, as they continue to share stories and little bits of wisdom from people
Mhm.
that are both have diabetes and are affected by
Oh, yeah.
diabetes. We're just one of the Emma and I are both one of the few of that were father daughter
Absolutely.
combo that that have diabetes, so we can relate, but yet we know that there are millions out there that
Mhm.
have it. And so know that there are people out there that know what you are going through, and that anytime that you need anything, feel free to reach out to the DOC, to the Diabetes Online community, to your friends, to just you're not in this alone when it comes to diabetes
Nope.
and everything. And is there anything else you want to add?
I think that's pretty much it.
All right.
I know we do have like social media accounts. My dad has like a dedicated like diabetes one as well, where he shares like a lot of knowledge and stuff. I do have one on Twitter that I do. I forgot the username though.
I'll tag her.
But
So I am on all the socials as Randall BT1D. So that's Randall RANDALL, B as in boy, T
as in
as in
tiger.
Tom, 1D.
Yeah.
And I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as well. I'll tag Emma on some posts so you can follow her as well. As
Yeah.
she is currently a college student for at Arizona State University, and so she can give a perspective that people might want to follow of a college student, and also working,
Yeah.
and how that affects her. And yeah, so we thank you for your time. Is there anything else you want to add
I'm good.
real quick?
I mean, I'm forever grateful for being on this. I love talking about diabetes and everything, since I do live with it. But no, I just want to say thank you again for everyone that listened in on it and, took the time to watch me and my dad talk, even though we talk from one thing to the next to the next. But I promise we have good information.
We really do. We go down a lot of rabbit holes, but we love to talk about this. We
Mhm.
love to use our diabetes to connect with other people. And so we're out there on the socials if you want to connect with us, and we can go from there. Otherwise, we hope everybody has a great day, and thank you for joining us.
Yep. Thank you guys.